This audio was not written by me. It was written by someone whose identity I do not wish to give out just yet until I have their consent. This is 100% a true story, and this needs to be taken seriously. Any comments that are joking in any manner will be deleted, and you will be banned from commenting on my audios again. This story contains extremely sensitive and serious topics. If you feel that you can handle it, please proceed. But if not, there will be another vampire audio uploaded very soon. But with that, let's get into the audio. And again, this is a very, very serious issue and topic. Control. The brain is a miraculous organ. It can sustain all organ functions throughout life, from when we first take breath until our last heartbeat. It has been the reason for many of the beautiful things and inventions we enjoy in life. The mind is an amazing thing, but with the improper balance of brain chemicals, it can also be someone's greatest nightmare. When I was a young girl, I could tell I was different from the other children ever since I started kindergarten. I never had preschool, but I felt like I was smarter than they were. I remember playing with the costumes and masks with a couple of other little girls, and I put the princess dress on. I looked immediately for the princess mask. When I saw the other girl had it on, I asked her for it, and when she gave me the frog one, I pushed her down and took the princess one. Was she crazy? That one didn't match. I had to have things my way always. I got a, quote, doesn't play well with others on my report card. I was never a wicked child, but later on in elementary school, I started to view the other kids as pawns, even my friends. They had to act a certain way, or it bugged me immensely. Mostly everyone liked me because I was a very cute girl, so I had everyone wrapped around my finger, and those who didn't follow me, I took care of. My dad had recently gotten married to an awful, horrible woman who treated my brother and me badly, and my stepbrother beat me up at home. My brother would beat him up later on behind closed doors for me. I had no control at home, so I had to have control at school. There was a boy I shoved down a hill because a rock he tossed hit me in the leg, and we both got sent to the principal's office. I didn't get in trouble because I started crying in the office, and they made him apologize to me. He got creeped out by my mood swing when I smiled at him creepily when I said it was okay. I believe some of the way my stepmother treated me at the time brought out some symptoms of childhood bipolar disorder. When a girl at my school called my best friend and me a name, I followed her into the bathroom and poured glue into her hair and shoved her into a stall before walking out. No one believed I would do any of these things because I would have these spurts of anger and then I would be normal. At home, I would rarely have some depression, mostly when I would miss my grandma. But I got fed up with my stepmother and started to sabotage her relationship. I would stalk her around the house and listen in on anything she would do since my dad worked late and leave my dad notes for him to find. I would let him know what kind of bitch he was really married to. It worked though. My dad told me that we were going to move back into our hometown to live with my grandma, and he was going to leave her. But then he asked me to stay quiet. Sadly, I would have to leave my best friend behind. My stepbrother always asked my dad what kind of house we were going to once we moved. I couldn't help but grin. 1 month passed, and she was tossed aside with her troll of a child. Good riddance. I didn't have the same friends or the same control over anyone. These kids were harder to work over as well, and I became more so a loner. They also didn't like people trying to tell them what to do, so I was on the other side of the attack, and I was bullied a bit. It wasn't as horrible as the ones that you hear of the teenagers that were driven all the way to suicide, but it was enough to make me hide in my shell. Maybe it was my payback for what I did early in elementary school. Quote-unquote friends made me feel horrible for crushes that I had. I was made fun of for my body, which helped start my body dysmorphic issues. My real mom was another part of that. People also stole crushes that I liked when I confided in them. My trust was being broken everywhere. I must have been punished for everything I did when I was that second grader. This was around the time my dad was dating and considering marrying someone new. After that last woman, I was wary of anyone else. She ended up being better for me than my real mom though. She helped me through the changes that were going on for me during my middle school years, while my mom put me in danger and ended up getting me molested at age 14. My high school years were some of the roughest for my mental health. I had given up on trying to control others when I felt out of control in my own mind. My depression had fully sprouted at age 15, and I had discovered cutting as a way to cope with the torment going on in my mind. It didn't help that I had other depressed teenagers that I was hanging out with at the time, and we were all into cutting. When I turned 16, I got my first boyfriend, and later that year, something changed. All of a sudden, I didn't need to sleep. Those depressed teenagers were nothing to me. They needed to just do what I did, whatever it was. I could do anything. I got my schoolwork much quicker. It was like I cured my depression. I felt so elated, but it didn't last long. I crashed and slept. I woke up and I was back to my depressed self. I got so upset that I cut myself even more that day. After I moved away from my high school boyfriend, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 1. My high school boyfriend was being sneaky while I was away from him, and when I confronted him, I found out that he was cheating on me with my brother's girlfriend at the time, and we got into a fight. Long story short, he told me to kill myself, knowing what I had, and I took it literally. I overdosed on ibuprofen and spent the night in the hospital with my first suicide attempt at 17. During my early 20s, I started a relationship with a guy who will have been my longest relationship and who I lost my virginity to. I didn't feel comfortable with all of that, and especially not earlier like other teenagers did, because of the molestation that had happened to me. Since by then, I was being treated with medications and seeing a therapist for my bipolar disorder, for my depressive symptoms. I had not had any mania symptoms since that episode when I was 16. I was feeling pretty well during this point in my life, but I knew it couldn't last long. I just didn't know what was going to jump up and attack me in my mind. Soon those controlling thoughts from my way back in my past came back, and they were completely different. These were embarrassing and confusing. I was getting obsessive thoughts in my head that my boyfriend at the time was more attracted to people he was watching in porn, or if a movie had nude scenes, that he was more attracted to them. It got to the point where we fought, and I told him I didn't want him watching any movies with any female nudity or porn, because I was so afraid of him being attracted to anyone else but me. I would spend hours on IMDb looking at the parental guides for different movies or stuff that we could watch, and if they forgot something and I saw it, I would get upset. I would ask if he watched anything behind my back for reassurance. Even though things were in control, I still felt out of control. Very out of control. When I talked to my doctor, she said that I had obsessive compulsive disorder. I know most people think of it as that I need to have everything in order, or I can tell something is out of order, even with the hand washing all the time, which OCD patients do. I see all those memes online, but it's not like that in your head. Obsessive compulsive disorder is an anxiety disorder in which people have unwanted and repeated, sometimes violent thoughts, feelings, images, and sensations, and engage in behaviors or mental acts in response to these thoughts or obsessions. Relief is short and the cycle continues. Eventually, I got over that nudity issue and I can watch movies like that now. But that relationship started to deteriorate slowly to where he and I couldn't stand each other. We fought all the time, and there were issues with mental and emotional abuse. Most of the time we ignored each other, but he had his own depression issues. When I was in the other room, he'd come in and get his frustrations out on me before going back to whatever he was doing, which was usually loudly playing video games while I was trying to sleep for work. This was around the time I had just turned 26 and started pacing around my apartment every night until 3 to 4 a.m. But I would still be rested enough for work the next morning. That whole week I had only slept 27 hours in total, and now I'd be pacing around at work almost every 5 minutes, it seemed like. I got my work done faster than normal, but my boss didn't ask me if anything was wrong. I knew exactly what was going on though. My doctor gave me some medication to try and stop the manic episode and try to avoid a depressive crash. The pill did the opposite though and made me go crazy. I, quote, blacked out, and the next thing I knew, I had blood running down my arm. My doctor labeled it a suicide attempt and asked me to go to the ER. After being there for a short while, they sent me to a treatment center. The next time I attempted suicide was after visiting my real mom and sister. I was of course unhappy with my relationship and my job, and I didn't want to go back. When I got back home, my depression got worse, and I started having suicidal thoughts. I caved into them, and I overdosed on my Valium. I got sent to the ER, and of course the treatment center again. After getting off my medical leave from work, I ended up getting laid off from my job, and I also left my then boyfriend, which caused me to lose my apartment. I had to move into my aunt's apartment in a bad area of town while I looked for a job, and a coworker from my old job wanted to take me out to a bar since I had never been. I got really drunk, but I trusted her since friends wouldn't let anything bad happen to you. She selfishly wanted to go home to have sex with her boyfriend and told the guy that her and her boyfriend were talking to for a bit, someone they had never met before that night, to take me home. Her only thing she had to say to him? Just don't kill her. Mind you, I had no idea what was going on. Yup, he took me home alright. I threw up in his car first, but he took advantage of me. I woke up the next morning wondering why the fuck was I in his bed, and I was sick until about 4 p.m. But stupid me didn't want it to be only a one-night stand, because that would have bugged me, and I'm not that type of person. We eventually became in a relationship a couple months later, but it wasn't much of a relationship. I showed up to a bar, we got drunk, and you can guess the rest. I fought with my aunt at home and kept getting rejection letters from every place I applied at. Sadly, the only fun I had was when he texted or called me. Anytime I tried to do anything else in his house, he would get mad. It was like he wanted only one thing, obviously. In February of 2017, he gave me some bullshit that his ex was wanting to get back together, and we fought all night at the bar. It made me realize I had nothing else fun to do since everyone I hung out with was around him as well, and I got sent into a mixed episode. I couldn't stand being around my aunt, so I wandered around the city for a week and a half with a friend. I was showing manic symptoms sometimes, and depressive other times. I would cry hysterically, and the next minute I would be laughing at something else. One of the, quote, friends was worried about me after I cut my arm up and invited me to her house. I drank a bunch of wine while telling her about my suicidal thoughts. Her husband came in and said something rude about suicidal people, and I broke my wine glass while yelling at him. Later on that night, I overheard the husband talking about how he was interested in having sex with me, and I went into the room that I was going to sleep in. This part I only remember after talking about in therapy. When I woke up the next morning, I had no pants on or anything, just a shirt. I was confused at the time, but didn't think anything of it. I'm sure now that I had been raped or at least molested again. I felt confused and suicidal again. Now that I was sober, I was looking for my pills to take. I also had texts from my therapist who was trying to find me. I left the house, and finally after my dad got to my therapist, she picked me up and took me to the hospital. My dad was concerned that I was going to end up dead, either by suicide or murder. When I got out of the treatment center this time, I cut off everyone that I knew at that bar, including my ex. I blocked everyone's numbers and everyone's Facebook accounts. I knew that if I wanted to get better, I couldn't associate with them anymore. Fast forward 7 months, I had lost 50 pounds, was in the middle of a nursing course, and just met my now boyfriend. Things were now looking up for me. Now, almost 8 months later, I have a good job, a great relationship, almost perfect, and stable ones with my family members I do speak with. There are times where I do feel like I'm drowning in my symptoms with my bipolar disorder and OCD, but with a great support system, such as my boyfriend and my family, and my therapist and doctor's help, I feel like I will make it through. I hope my story gives others with similar problems hope, and just know that you're not alone. You can make it too. Please, if you are experiencing any of these symptoms or have gone through any of these, you do not have to make it public in the comments. Instead, reach out to someone if you need support. I have a Discord linked down below. If you are one of these people, DM me privately and we will get you some support that you need. Thank you. And again, if you need help, please reach out to someone.